Hello, this is a version 1 of this OpenVPN deployment script I wrote that automates the deployment of OpenVPN servers on Oracle's cloud. So it's really nice. Works well enough. It could be better. But yeah, essentially, if you go to Oracle's cloud and open their command shell, just copy and paste this command, and that should be it. So essentially, Oracle's cloud does offer a free service where you can get 4 CPUs and 24 gigs of RAM, and that can be split among 1 or 4 different virtual machines. So like 4 virtual machines with 1 CPU, or 1 virtual machine with 4 CPUs. So with the free offering for OpenVPN, you can connect 2 devices per server. So what I'm doing is spinning up a server called OpenVPN-server. So this command that I just copy and pasted in to set up the server is my configure script, and then some parameters. So the name of the server, and then how many CPUs. So I said 1, and then how many gigs of RAM will be allocated to that VM, so that would be 6. So you can just change these parameters to like 2 if you want to, and spin up different size virtual machines with different names. And it seems to work pretty well. There's not too much error handling, but I can walk through what the script is actually doing in a second. I did want to mention that Ideaspot has a great video on the Oracle's free offering, and you should definitely check that out. And yeah, so what the script is actually doing, so I have these scripts open in Visual Studio Code for some syntax highlighting. But essentially on the right hand side, I'll just walk through the output really fast. It got the tenancy IDs. It's looking for a virtual cloud network named OpenVPN -VCN, so virtual cloud network. If it doesn't find it, it creates it. So it tries to not clobber what's already in the environment as much as possible. And we'll connect the subnet and the security list and the gateway. It will create the internet gateway and set up the route table and all that stuff. So and then it will try to spin up the virtual machine and then wait for it to be ready, at which point it will try to SSH in and run a configuration script that will actually install OpenVPN on the server. So this first script here that I opened that we're curling in is and piping to bash, which you should always make sure you read the scripts that you do that with, because that's super dangerous anyway. But yeah, this is essentially Oracle's OCI commands to configure the infrastructure. So this is at the very beginning, just some getting the variables, and then we're downloading that configure script, which I mentioned is also in this GitHub repository in the description. I'll walk through that as well. This is going to generate an key if it doesn't already exist, and this key will be used across all the virtual machines. You can download it offline if you want to SSH into them as well. But then we're just getting some variables, the tenant ID, the type of VM shape that we're doing. They're going to be ARM based because it works pretty well. The Ubuntu image, we're getting the image, the first availability domain. This can be changed as well if you are trying to spin up a virtual machine and it basically is saying that there's no availability. Different availability domains might have resources available. So you can also see that this is like doing all the subnets, the virtual network stuff. It's going, setting up all the stuff that we saw over here. And then it spins up the virtual machine and then waits for 60 seconds because essentially it failed because the virtual machine said it was awake, but we got the public IP and tried to SSH in too fast, so SSH wasn't alive. So I'm just waiting a whole minute for hopefully it will be awake. But then now that the infrastructure is set up, the virtual machine is there, it's connected to the internet, all the firewall rules are configured on Oracle's cloud side. It's going to try to get the public IP and SSH in and pass in that configure script. So that configure script is going to be what actually is running on the host on that machine, and it's going to install, and well, it's going to update the OS and just take all the default options. and then install some dependencies, and then open VPN. And then it's going to set the IP of the host. It's going to set all the DNS settings to use Google DNS and such. It's going to update the IP tables to open the firewall. It's going to generate a new username. It's going to generate a new password for the admin. It's going to get a new profile for auto login, and then pass all that information back to the console out here. We'll see output down here. That has the password and all that stuff, and the IP address and the URLs to the new VPN server. So the end goal is to not have to touch anything in the GUI to set up a new server. Yeah, so we just have to wait for this to update, and I'll also probably poke through this, the console as well when it's there. So again, it looks to be working right now. Sometimes it could randomly fail. There's not too much error handling, so at least it is open source, so you can always update it if needed. Yeah, but it seems to work pretty well. Okay, so now we have some nope, so it's almost done. So OpenVPN has just been installed. Now it's going to run through all my custom configurations, which I do some updates to the SACLI. So I did have to, you can look in the browser sometimes as well with the network traffic to get some of these commands, which maybe I'll show as well. But yeah, so it's done here. So now if I look at the output, this is right here in between these. Basically, we can, it says to copy and paste, you know, the passwords and stuff to the password manager. You can always update them and all that stuff, but it tries to reset to like just some UUIDs for passwords that are relatively, hopefully secure-ish. So yeah, the admin portal is here. So if I just click on it, just like every other server, we did not configure certbot or any certificates, which you could update the script to do. So we're just going to accept and log in with, for example, the admin credentials, which is OpenVPN, and this password here. And if I click sign in, we're going to agree, and I'm in. So if I look at some of the settings, like the TLS settings, or I'm sorry, the network settings, the host name, like things that we typically would configure in the GUI are already configured because that's what the whole configuration script does. And I don't remember all of the places in the VPN settings. If you scroll down, yeah, these primary DNS right here, this is what we just updated as well for clients, telling them to use the Google's DNS. You can always update that stuff. We created a new user. So instead of OpenVPN being the admin, you know, typically you create a user account. You don't want to connect with the admin account, probably. So yeah, so it creates a user, it creates some profile for them, and oops, didn't mean to click that. And yeah, so you can see, and I need to fix that typo, but the username and password is here as well, but you don't even have to log in to the portal to connect because I already generated these profile links. So this OpenVPN link right here is just like already done in the script, in the configuration script. And so now you can just take this right here and paste it into your browser, and it'll prompt to open an OpenVPN, and I am already connected to this new VPN. Like I didn't have to do anything at all. If I go to ip.me, it shows that I'm at this IP address, which is the new IP address, right? So it's really easy. If I wanted to connect on my phone, this URL right here is using chartapis.google.com to generate a QR code, which can be used to connect my phone pretty much immediately. I don't even have to email the link or anything like that. I can just connect my phone right here. So everything is just right there available to you. In the current working directory, there is the scripts that it installed, but also the IDRSA, so the like certificate or the key and stuff you can download you can download that and connect it through SSH to these machines if you want. But really, the whole point is that I just ran this one command to spin one up, and if I wanted to make one with like 2 CPUs and maybe like 12 gigs of RAM, beef it up a little bit, call it OpenVPN server big, then I can just run this command and it'll kick off another one to start using, and it'll use the same networks that it set up if it detects that they're already there. So that's how that works. And if you did want to update some of these and do like some custom stuff, you can try to look at documentation, but also like the network traffic of that OpenVPN server is also a good way to get the some of these values. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And everything is open source. Check the description. Hopefully this helps if it works, but it's at least a step closer. I haven't seen very much other automation for this stuff. Hopefully somebody finds it useful. Thank you for watching. Bye.